In this clip, I will talk you through the key elements of my drawing the second stage of this portrait of Harry Styles. I will talk you through the pencils that I used, the techniques that I used to draw the second stage, which is all of the skin tones, the lips and the nose area. So let's get into the clip. If you would like a comprehensive list of all the pencils that I've used in this tutorial, then please check in the description below and you will find a list of all the pencils I've used. I've started off with Nougat to block out the dark areas, and because Harry Styles in this photograph has a blue undertone in the highlights, I've started to use light ultramarine. There are also warm elements, so I'm using light red violets, and because he has olive tones to his skin, I'm using May green. As I said, if you go to the description below, you will find a list of all the pencils, so you should be able to follow along. If you would like to draw along with me at a slower pace, then please visit my Patreon, where you will find a real-time tutorial of this clip. Now when I look at the dark areas on the left hand side, I'm starting to pick up some warm undertones, so I'm going to go in with some light red violet just to pick up those warmer areas. So I'm now adding some detailing to the nostrils, and I'm doing this with dark sepia. You should avoid using black in your images. The only areas where I usually use black is on the eyelashes if I absolutely need to, but sometimes then I don't even use black. So I'm just adding dark sepia, paying careful attention to look at my reference image all the time and making sure that those nostrils are as accurate as possible by looking at my reference image. Now I'm adding the skin tones around the nose, and this is where the reference image comes in really importantly, because I'm now starting to block in those tones and all of those shapes around the nose. If I'm not looking at my reference image for those dark tones, mid-tones, all those subtle colours around the base of the nose, then I won't get a true likeness of my portrait. So it's really important that you have your reference image to hand of if you're drawing along with me, or if you're doing your own portrait, to make sure that you are getting a really accurate portrayal of that nose. This is probably the area of the image where it's so important that you do have that reference. If you want more details of how to draw a nose, then please make sure you check out my tutorial on how to draw facial features, including how to draw a nose. However, I was primarily using Prismacolors, so the blending was slightly different. However, it does go through the whole process of blocking out those tones. And now I'm going to go into the darker areas with the medium flesh or coral. So now I'm going to go in with some solvent and a small filbert brush just to blend all of those skin tones together on the forehead. I'm using Zest It because this is a solvent that is not very toxic and doesn't have a strong odour. and I'm sweeping this very lightly across all of the pencil strokes just to blend them all together and mix them also, because the skin tones will then become a bit warmer. So now at this stage I'm going to pick out the highlights and the dark areas. I'm going to do this by using the Prismacolor and Luminance White and also the sepia pencil, and also I'm going to pick out some warmer tones with the medium flesh pencil. As with the previous areas of the skin tone that I've done so far, I'm going to go over them with the Caran d'Ache Luminance Burnt Ochre 10%, because this will smooth all the skin tones out. So now that I've added quite a few pencil layers, I'm going to go in with the small filbert brush and the solvent and blend all of those skin tones together to see how they look. It may be the case that I need to add more colour on top, but I won't know that until I've blended all of them together. Now that the solvent has dried, it's time to look back at the portrait, and I can see that some of the skin tones don't look even. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over them with the seashell pink just to bring them together and to blend them out. To blend the skin tones further, I'm going to go in with a Derwent pencil blender, because this will help to blend the skin tones, especially the mixture of wax and oil-based pencil. And as I mentioned earlier, this isn't the final stage, because I may decide that I want to add some even darker tones on the left hand side, but at this stage I just want to blend those tones together to see what everything looks like. So now I'm going to start drawing the lips, and I'm going to start by blocking out the dark areas and some of the linear details with dark sepia. Now for the mid-tones and the warmer areas, I'm going to add caput mortuum. So for the jacket, I'm going to go in with a layer of dark indigo and then blend the marks out with solvent. The reason for this is because it's a very dark colour, you will see the tooth of the paper coming through. So blending it out will solve a lot of those issues. So for this stage, I am blending out the area behind the eyebrow before I actually add the eyebrow hairs. The reason for this is what you don't want is to add the eyebrow hairs on top of white paper. You want to actually add the skin tone behind and look at, is it a darker area of skin tone, because you've got the shadows of the eyebrows. So have a really good look, have a look at the colour, identify is it going to be darker, and then add the according skin tones. So I decided to look at my picture and I looked at it again, and I knew that it wasn't dark enough and I needed to check it against my reference image. So I checked it against the reference image and decided that I certainly needed to layer up more dark areas, especially on the left hand side. It's really important when you are drawing, especially a recognisable animal or portrait especially, that you really check your reference image before moving on to the next stage. So I held up the reference image next to the portrait and decided that I really did need to make some quite dramatic additions to that left hand side because it just wasn't dark enough. If you enjoyed this clip, then make sure you check out more clips like this in the Colour Pencil playlist. Don't forget to look in the description below for details of products used in today's clip. And if you have any ideas for content or questions, leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content. Also, you can now check out my Patreon page for exclusive content, including real-time content and more.